Oh, boy. All right, all right, all right. This is not ESPN's 30 for 30. However, it is my 98 for 98, the 98 seasons in the history of the New York Football Giants. And, well, I'm probably not going to get all 98 seasons done in 98 days, but I'm going to try to get them done before the beginning of the season, which is September 10th against the Dallas Cowboys. And I definitely should be able to get that done. So we're at a historical, or whatever you want to kind of call it, year for the New York Giants. Their 50th season in the history of the New York Football Giants. And it was to the umpteenth degree. I mean, this was the season that just horrified me. And even to this day, I'm just still scarred. And I truly believe with every fiber of my being, even to this day, that when the Giants have a lead in the final minute and the other team has the ball, Giants are going to lose. To this day, almost 50 years later, I'm still scarred from the 1974 season. It was that unbelievably bad. So this is they're back. Usually when like in baseball, if you're voting for your team and you hear back to back, you're like, home runs, baby. Woo! Here we go, back to back jacks. Well, unfortunately for the Giants, when you talk about 1974 and you talk about back to back, you're talking about back to back 2-win season. So you thought 2-11-1. You thought can't get any worse than 2-11-1, right? No, it got worse. Oh yeah, because there was no 1. There was just 2-12. They had 12 losses. At least the 1973 team had 2 wins and a tie, right? Here they were just, oh my God. Oh my God. It was 2-12. They lost 4 games in a row. At the time, it was an NFL record. I don't know if it's been broken since. Don't know. Don't really care. They lost 4 games in a row, either in the final minute of the game or in overtime. And we're going to go over those games. Oh, yeah. Every painful game we're going to go over. Oh, yeah. Buckle your seatbelts, Giant fans. It ain't pretty. It's just like taking your car, driving at 50 miles an hour into a wall with no airbags. It's painful. Oh, yeah. It just scarred me for life. If I lived to 350,000 years old, this 1974 scarred me for life. And it would have been 5 games in a row the Giants would have lost in the final minute or in overtime. However, they lost 4 in a row. The game just before that, before the 4, it was the first time they ever played the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to go over that. And the Giants won 32-27. Of course, the Giants had the lead. Chiefs had the ball. Of course. Chiefs are marching down the field. I forgot who it was. Len Dawson completed a pass to somebody. Guy got down to so the Chiefs needed a touchdown. And, field goal wouldn't have done them any good because they were down by 5. So 32-27. So the Giants, the clock was running. Chiefs had no more timeouts. They were driving. If the game was like another 10, 15 seconds longer, the Chiefs would have won the football game. And it would have been 5 games in a row. And the Giants would have won 1 game. But the Giants tackled I forgot who it was, at the 1-yard line. He caught the ball around the 2 or something. It was like the Jacksonville game here this past season. With the Jacksonville, whoever I forgot who it was. Lawrence hit a guy. He got down to the 1. So I forgot who it was. Stood him up at the 1-yard line, and he didn't get in. The time expired. And the game was over. Well, it was like this: they gang tackled some guy at the 1-yard line, and he didn't get in. But I mean, I said the game was like another 15 or 20 seconds. I mean, they were just walking right down the field. I mean, I'm sure they would have scored. Because I think that gave them a first down. So I mean, if there was enough time, for them to run a couple plays, they would have gotten in and they would have wound up winning. So there would have been 5 games in a row. But oh my goodness! So Anyway, after the 1973 season was over, thank God, my final visions of Alex Webster, the Giants coach, was walking off the field at the Ale Bowl after they got pummeled by the Vikings 31-7 in the little flurrying out. It was dark, dismal, gray, dreary December day there. So was the Giants season in 1973. Alex Webster walking off, and he quit because he basically. I think I read in an article. He's like, if I don't see any way of fixing it, I just, it's time for me just not to be the coach anymore. So that's what happened. He wasn't the coach anymore. So that was December 16th, I believe. The Giants' final game when they lost to the Vikings. Final game of the 73 season. Matter of fact, the Giants lost, 71-13 in the final two games. They lost 40-6 to the Rams on Monday Night Football. Thank goodness they didn't have a Monday Night Football game in 1974. They certainly didn't deserve it. But after that, the very next day, December 17th, the Giants hired Andy Robustelli as the director of operations, kind of like, quote, unquote, the first GM without actually having the title in Giants history. He went out and he had to go and find a new coach. Well, he found a very respectable human being, a good coach, intelligent, this, that, and the other thing. Bill Arnsparger, who kind of built the Miami Dolphins no-name defense. Why? Well, because I forgot who it was. Somebody said, he said, I don't, a bunch of no names on that defense. It wasn't like, the Steel Curtain or the Doomsday or, the Fearsome Foursome or the Purple People Eaters or anything like that. You can just rattle off a bunch of guys on, the Steel Curtain was Greenwood, White, and Holmes, and, Fearsome Foursome, Lamar Lundy, and Deacon Jones, Rosie Greer, and Merlin Olsen, or the Purple People Eaters, you got Jim Marshall and Larson and Alan Page and Carl Eller. You could rattle off the guys. Somebody said a bunch of no names over there, but they played very well together. The no name defense. And the Dolphins were, their defense was very, very good. 1972, 73, 74. I think they were 37, the Dolphins, 37-5 in 3 seasons, the Dolphins. It's pretty good last time I checked. I said, and their defense was a very, very, very good defense. Well, Bill Arnsparger was the one, he was the defensive coordinator of those Dolphins. So in 72 and 73, they won the Super Bowl. Well, Bill Arnsparger got hired as the head coach of the Giants in 1974. So Alex Webster was out after 73. So Bill Arnsparger became the coach of the New York Football Giants in 1974. So, so basically, the next 2 coaches in the history of the New York Football Giants lasted 2.5 seasons. Bill Arnsparger lasted 74 and 75 and half of 76. John McVay came in and he lasted the other half of 76, 77, and 78. Basically, after the Miracle of Meadowlands won, which happened in 78, he got canned. So we had 2 coaches basically last 5 seasons. Basically, each one lasted exactly 2.5 years. Because with Bill Arnsparger, he lasted 74, 75. And the half of 76, we were 0-7. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is where I'm just scarred for life, as a kid. Just absolutely just scarred for life. Just unbelievable. But, however, on a bright side, good and bad, all right? For the first time in a while, all right, you can actually see a little bit of hope in the NFL draft. A little bit of hope, right? First couple picks weren't too bad. The problem was that we were still trading away picks to get players. because we had Norm Snead. We drafted Carl Summerall. So we had let's see who. Let's see. Hold on. If I gotta pop them up here. 1974. There we go. So we had Carl Summerall, who we drafted, Jim Dalgazo, oh my God, and Norm Snead. Norm Snead, he was kind of coming to the end of his career, his lifespan. Actually, after this season, it was weird because he went to the 49ers, 1975. Then he came back to the Giants in 1976 as the Giants backup. But the Giants needed quarterback play, so they went out, and about halfway through the season, Craig Morton played. He started in the final 7 games of the season for the Giants. He came in like halfway through. Let's see, the 6th game of the season was it against the Cowboys, Redskins? What was it? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Well, I think it was he started playing against halfway through the season. It was like against the Cowboys. I think he came in like in the game. I think he was, but he came. They made the trade halfway through the season because the season was just going absolutely nowhere, and they made a trade to get Craig Morton from the Dallas Cowboys. And that's like a what do you call it? The rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer. Well, the Cowboys were, had Roger Staubach and Craig Morton. Craig Morton was a decent quarterback, not a phenomenal quarterback. Decent quarterback. Why? Well, let me tell you why. Well, because he took 2 different teams to Super Bowls. He took the Cowboys to the Super Bowl in 1970. He was also part of their 1971 Super Bowl winning team. And he took the Denver Broncos to a Super Bowl after the 1977 season. Of course, they got annihilated by the Dallas Cowboys, but Craig Morton took 2 different teams to Super Bowls. He was a decent quarterback. He was a statue, though. So you needed to protect him. You needed to have decent receivers, and you needed to protect him because he wasn't very mobile at all. If you could protect him, give him some time to throw, he wasn't that bad of a quarterback. But the Giants did not do a very good job as far as protecting. What do they got here? Well, it wasn't too bad. They only gave up 20 sacks. It wasn't too bad, but still, they had no running game. The running game was pathetic, absolutely horrible. So they needed help. So what did they do? They wound up trading, as I said, with the Dallas Cowboys. They traded away their number 1 overall pick in the 1975 draft to get Craig Morton in 1974. Well, so it wound up, so far it didn't look too bad. The problem is that Craig Morton only played 2.5 seasons for the Giants. So basically they traded away their first overall pick in 1975, who the Cowboys wound up taking Randy White, who wound up being a future Hall of Fame defensive tackle. And I don't know if the Giants were going to select Randy White or not. But he was, if they kept their draft pick and did not trade for Craig Morton, they had I think it was the number 2 overall pick in the 1975 draft. We'll go over that tomorrow. But there was a Hall of Fame defensive tackle there available for the Giants, and if they'd taken him, they were good with him for 10 years. But they traded the pick away for a quarterback that was only there for 2.5 years. That's kind of like a little theme-ish kind of thing. The Giants traded for Y.A. Tittle, who only, wound up working out well because they had the team around him, but he only played 4 seasons for the Giants. They traded away a bunch of draft picks to get Fran Tarkenton, who only played 5 seasons for the Giants. They traded away a high draft pick to get Craig Morton, who only played 2.5 seasons for the Giants. So finally, the bleeding stopped when they finally drafted Phil Simms in 1979. Finally they had the quarterback for the future for quite a while. But, they were doing a lot of trading just to get quarterbacks. So, but, the draft did hold some hope for them. Because they started drafting, doing some good draft. Their first 2 picks wound up being guards for the Giants. Where are we at here? Got here somewhere. The Giants draft. I mean, it wasn't too bad. As I said, the first two picks. So I have it up here anymore. Here we go. The first two picks weren't bad. The first pick in the 1974 draft, all right, was because they were 2-11-1. They had the third overall pick. Well, they took John Hicks, guard from Ohio State. I think he was an All-American, very good, nice, solid pick. He was on the All-NFL rookie team, and so was their second pick. This is the third consecutive Outland Trophy pick that the Giants had. I think they're the only team maybe in NFL history took back Outland Trophy winners. Outland Trophy winners, the best. I think it's like the interior lineman or best lineman in college. Well, the Giants took. What was it in 1972? They took Larry Jacobson, who was a defensive tackle for Nebraska. 1973, they took Rich Glover, who was, I guess, maybe probably wasn't a tackle. He was probably a defensive end, I guess, maybe for Nebraska. And in 1974, they took John Hicks, who was a guard from Ohio State. Wound up being a very good pick. And let me go over the second one here. So they didn't trade that one away, actually. And then their round two, they wound up having the second pick in the second round, and they wound up taking Tom Mullen, who was a guard. Okay, so actually they wound up grabbing two guards with the first and the second pick. Not bad. Once again, Tom Mullen made the all-rookie team. So basically, in the 1974, the Giants had an all-rookie team, had both guards. Not bad. The problem is that both guys only played 4 seasons for the Giants. They played from 74 to 77 for the Giants, and that was it. So, but let's see, what do we got here? So they had, let's see, in the third round, they took Rich Dvorak, who was a defensive lineman. I guess maybe he was like a defensive tackle. He didn't play too long for the Giants. Let me see if I can pop any of this stuff up here. 1974 New York Giants. Team draftees here. Rich Dvorak, he played 4 seasons. Was it all with the Giants? I mean, yeah, he was nothing super special. He played like 74, 75, and 76 with the Giants. He played basically in all the games. And in 1977, he played 5 games with the Giants and then 1 game with the Dolphins, and his career was over. So, let's see. John Hicks, their first pick, he only played 4 seasons his whole career because he got injured. The Giants traded him to the Steelers in 78. He never made their team. If he had made their team, he would have had a Super Bowl ring because the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1978 and 79, they won their Super Bowl. They won their 3rd and 4th Super Bowls. So if he had made their team and was able to make their team, he could have had a couple Super Bowl rings. But with his injuries, he never made the Steelers team. So he only played 4 seasons in the NFL, all with the Giants. Tom Mullen, their second pick, played from 74 to 77 with the Giants. In 78, who did he play with? It wasn't with the Giants. He played some other team. And then his career was over. He played with the Cardinals. Then his career was over. So he played a guard and tackle, it looked like. Guard and tackle, he played. It looks like in 76 he might have played left tackle for the Giants. But other than that, he played guard. Then after that, the Giants just, let's see here. Okay, so in round 3, they took Rich Dvorak, they got some use out of. It wasn't like he was a total bum, but he got some use out of him. Then they took the quarterback, Carl Summerall. Well, I'll go over his stats for this season, which they were not very good, so he was not a very good pick. But at least the first 3 picks, they got some use out of. Then they had Don Clune. Nope. But Clyde Powers, where was he at? Jim Petrozak, I guess that's what his name. They got some use out of him. Let's see if I can pop him up here. I think it's Petrozak. That's how you call him. I mean, he played from 74 to 87. It wasn't all with the Giants. I can guarantee you that. He played 74 to 78 with the Giants. Then 79, he played with the Giants and the Saints, and then he played with the Saints. He missed 2 seasons, and he played 1 season with the Kansas City Chiefs in 87. So he had a nice long career, But I mean, only 5 of it was with the Giants. But once again, it was somebody they got some use out of. Then they took Marty Woodbright, Ezel Bibbs, Jim Rathje. My God. Then they took Ray Rhodes. All right. Ray Rhodes wasn't too bad. Not too shabby. He played, was it all with the Giants, 74 to 80? He played like 3 seasons at cornerback and 3 seasons at wide receiver. He wasn't, he was not an all-pro, Hall of Fame or nothing like that. 74, 75, okay, my bad. Okay, 6 seasons with the Giants. His final season he played with the San Francisco 49ers. But the first 3 seasons, 74, 75, 76, he was a wide receiver. Then 77, 78, 79, they put him at cornerback. All right. I mean, he was, he was a decent, wide receiver. What did he do? Wide receiver. I mean, he's you're just kind of scratching your head here. Let's see here. He had 9 receptions, and then 26 receptions. 1976, he had 16 receptions. I mean, 1975, he had 537 yards. He had 6 touchdowns, 26 receptions. Nothing super spectacular. But then they moved him to cornerback. So, but then once again, they got some use out of him. So you're starting to see, it's going to start seeing some changes. Some guys, like Jim Rathje, he was the 9th round pick. Ezel Bibbs, 8th round pick. Marty Woodbright, a 7th round pick. So they didn't make it, but they're 7th, 8th, and 9th round picks, right? Bobby Brooks, he played, I think it was all 3 seasons with the Giants. He was a defensive back. But they got some use out of him. Yeah, all 3. He played in 14 games in 74, 14 games in 75, 1976. He played in 4 and started 4 games, and his career was over. Maybe he got injured and he can never play ever again. I'm not sure. But once again, they got some use out of him. Then I love this name, Jim Sims. There you go. Linebacker. I think he played 1 season for the Giants. Then 13th round, Dennis Colvin. Mike Hayes, the 14th round pick. Larry Jones from Truman State. There you go. That powerhouse. Truman State. Truman State is in the house. He was, let's see, did he play Giants here? Nope. He wound up playing with Washington and the 49ers. So he never actually wound up playing for the Giants. Larry Jones. Let's see. He was a 15th round pick. Buddy Brown. He was a 16th round pick. I don't look like he ever played. Then Steve Crosby, I had a running back. He played in the NFL, but was it with the Giants? I don't think so. Oh, it was. He played with the Giants, 74, 75, and 76. He didn't get many. He only had, what did he have? For his whole career, that's why I don't remember. He only had 15 carries in those 3 seasons. Matter of fact, in 1975, he played in 4 games. Maybe it was all special teams. He didn't even have a carry. 1976, he played in 2 games. He had 1 carry in 2 games. So I guess he was probably maybe a special teamer. But I mean, they started getting some use out of some of their draft picks. So finally, for the first time in the longest time since, like, I don't even know. We're going through the whole 60s. They had some horrible drafts in the 60s, horrible drafts in the late 60s, horrible drafts in the early 70s. Finally now, maybe with Andy Robustelli there, maybe making the picks, and, maybe they're I don't know, scouting department got better. I don't know. But some of the guys, they started, the cupboard was bare, straight up bare. Right, they start finally getting some guys in there. Right, maybe they didn't play all that long, like John Hicks. They didn't know he was going to get hurt in the 77 season. Who knew that, right? But he was a decent player. So they finally started getting some guys that they started putting in there that could play for a while for the team. So things started changing a little bit. It would take a while because the cupboard was totally bare. Their team was horrible. So it was going to take a while, all right, for them to restock the shelves, so to speak. But it was going to take a while, but things are starting to change, right? But in the meanwhile, they're just they also got Dave Jennings as well too. I think he was he? Let me see. Let me pop him up here. Dave Jennings. He was undrafted. He was a rookie, undrafted. He played all 14 games. He was part of the all-rookie team as well too. So the Giants had, on the all-rookie team, they had the punter and they had the 2 guards on the all-rookie team. All right. So once again, they got Dave Jennings, college, St. Lawrence, wherever that's at. Have no idea. No idea. But he was undrafted. Sadly, he passed away at the age of 61, June 19th, 2013. Real nice guy. But from wherever St. Lawrence is at, no idea. But the Giants got him, and he played with the Giants, I think, from 74 to 84, I believe it might have been, or 74 to 85. So they started getting some guys that start restocking the shelves. So Dave Jennings wound up being another real good one. But let's some of these stats here. Where we got here, Giants. I mean, I want to go over the quarterback play here. I mean, and we'll go over the games. Oh my God. They got Craig Morton, who played in 8 games. He started 7. He came in halfway through like one of the games. He was 1-6 as a starting quarterback. He completed 51.5% of his passes, had 1,500 yards. He threw 9 touchdowns with 13 interceptions. Norm Snead, who started the season pretty much, he was 1-3. He played in 5 games, started 4 of them. He completed 60% of his passes for 615 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. So in 5 games, he had 3 touchdowns. He had 7 interceptions. Jim Delgado started 3 games for the Giants as well. He played in 4 games altogether. He started in 3 of them. He was 0-3. He started 3 games for the Giants. He completed 37.5% of his passes. In his 3 games he started, he didn't throw a touchdown pass. Matter of fact, I think it was 4 games in a row. We'll go over games once again, unfortunately. But I think it was 4 games in a row the Giants scored single digits in points. 4 games in a row. Yeah. Hold on. I mean, this is just painful. Once again, with a P. Painful. The Giants scored 13.9 points per game. They averaged 14 points a game. They gave up 21.4 points per game. I was 13.9. Actually, they didn't even average 14 points a game. All right, then Carl Summerall, the one guy that they did draft. He wound up playing in 7 games. He completed 46.2% of his passes. He was 6 out of 13. No touchdowns. And at 6 out of 13, out of his 13 passes, 3 of them got intercepted. So the Giants as a team had 12 touchdown passes, 26 interceptions. And their running game was not very good. They averaged 3.4 yards a carry. They got 11 rushing touchdowns. So basically, they had 12 passing touchdowns, 11 rushing touchdowns. So they had, between rushing and passing, they had 23 touchdowns in 14 games. Joe Dawkins led the team. He had 3.6 yards a carry. He had 561 yards. Doug Kotar had 396 yards. He averaged 3.7 yards a carry. His long was a 53-yarder. So if you take that 53-yarder out, he probably would have averaged about 3.4 yards a carry. But the 53-yarder was a touchdown against the Atlanta Falcons. And, of course, the Giants lost that one. That's another one of those games. It was just, oh, my God. Anyway, Ron Johnson, who was coming to the end of his career due to injuries, he ran the ball 97 times for 218 yards. He averaged 2.2 yards a carry. Leon McQuay, he averaged 4.4 yards a carry. I think this was his only season with the Giants. And Steve Crosby, the guy they drafted, ran the ball 14 times for 55 yards. He averaged 3.9 yards a carry. I mean, it just, they averaged 106 yards a game rushing the ball. They gave up 137 yards a game rushing the ball. So, I mean, it was just, just not very good at all. Not very, very good at all. Pete Gogolek didn't have too bad of a season. He was 10 out of 19, so he kicked 52.6% of his. This was his final season with the Giants. He made it to the Pete Gogolek, the kicker for the Giants, was with the Giants. I think it was from 66 to 74. He made it to preseason in 1975, but he didn't want it making a team. I'm not sure. Ons Parga didn't want him around or whatever it was. So, but he did make it to preseason. But so I mean that's the putrid offense that the Giants had. So we'll go over here kind of game by game. What's up, Teddy? Chris Sims is good now too. Respect his dad. All right. Oh yeah, gotta love Phil. Gotta love Phil. St. Lawrence College is in Canada between Niagara and Toronto. Oh, there you go. Oh. There you go. Well, it's a punter powerhouse. Let me tell you, we got Dave Jennings from there. Punter powerhouse. Well, as far as I know, Dave Jennings. Well, I mean, there certainly could be somebody else. I mean, I'm not a historian on St. Lawrence football, but he might quite possibly be the only one in history to make it to the NFL. But he wound up being a real good pick for the Giants, and they went up having him for a long time. Good punter. Good punter. So let's go over these painful, ungodly, painful games. The Giants started off the season at home, so now Bill Arnsparger is the coach, right? So their first games, they're playing at the Yale Bowl, right? So they played 73 and 74 at the Yale Bowl. First two games of the 73 season were at Yankee Stadium. The rest of the season they played at the Yale Bowl. 1974, they played at the Yale Bowl. They played 7 home games at the Yale Bowl. Didn't win 1 home game. Only 2 games they won were both on the road. They beat the Chiefs, and somehow, I'll say that one more time, somehow they went on the road and beat the Dallas Cowboys on the road. No idea how they did that. But anyway, so the Giants lost the first game of the season 13-10. I mean, this is just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So they lost 13-10, so now they're 0-1. The second game of the season, New England Patriots come to town. The Giants lost 28-20. The Giants missed an extra point. So basically, I mean, they scored 3 touchdowns. New England scored 4. And, basically the 8-point difference was due to the fact that the Giants missed an extra point. So they lost 28-20. Then they went on the road somehow and they beat the Dallas Cowboys, they beat them 14-6. All right, then this is where the pain starts. Pain starts. The Giants lost. Then the Giants played at home against the Falcons on Sunday, October 6th, the 4th game of the season. The Giants lost 14-7. Doug Coda ran a 53 yards in for a touchdown. I think gave the Giants a 7-0 lead. Atlanta scored to tie it up at 7. Then I don't know what was in the third quarter. Norm Snead. What quarter was that in? Third quarter. Okay. Yeah. So Norm Snead, I think he was the one that threw the ball. Yeah, it wasn't Del Gazo. It was Norm Snead. Norm Snead in the third quarter was tied 7-7. The Giants had the ball around midfield. Norm Snead drops, gets the snap, takes a couple steps back, turns to his right. Just, I guess it's supposed to be like a 5 and out or something like that, whatever it was. Or maybe the guy ran a hitch. He just ran 5 yards and he turned around, whatever it was. But so Norm Snead just took a step or two back, turned to his right, just threw the ball. Well, Ray Brown jumped the route, picked it off, ran it back for a touchdown, 14-7. And after the game was over, one of the reporters talked to him, something like that. And Ray Brown said, he threw it, and I caught it. And he ran it back for a touchdown. So the Giants lost 14-7 on a pick 6. They had the ball around midfield. So if not for an interception there, maybe they punt the ball. Maybe the Falcons never score. Maybe the Giants get a tie out of it. But because of a pick 6 in the third quarter, the Giants lost 14-7. All right. Then they go on the road. They play the Eagles. They lost 35-7 to the Eagles. Then on Sunday, October 20th, the next game, the sixth game of the season, they go into Washington. They lost 24-3. They just absolutely horrible. The Giants had 6 turnovers, which cost them dearly. So they lost 34-3. Then the Cowboys came to town. And let's see here. Was this the game? I think it was this game. Yeah. This is the game. Craig Morton came in like halfway through or in the second quarter or something like that. So, the Giants got him from Dallas. So he came in and, he threw for 185 yards, but he threw 3 interceptions. The Giants lost, got totally annihilated. 21-7. The Giants' only touchdown in this game was Roy Hilton returned a fumble, 71 yards back for a touchdown. So that was the only score that the Giants had. There was a defensive touchdown. So, I mean, there's four games in a row the Giants scored single digits. 7 against the Falcons, 7 against the Eagles, 3 against the Redskins, and 7 against the Cowboys. Finally, it was 33-7. I thought it was 32-7. Well, it was 33-7. So finally, this starts the streak, all right? The Giants finally win their first game of the season, or the second game of the season, right? The first time they ever played the Chiefs is in 1974. They go to in Kansas City. Games kind of back and forth. I remember watching it on TV. It was an exciting game. And the Giants were up 33-27. So my bad. I thought it was 32-27. But so the Giants were up by 6 points. Once again, as I said, this right here, okay, this game plus the next 4 made me firmly believe, and I'm scarred to this day, that if the Giants ever have the lead in the final minute and the other team has the ball, they're going to lose. To this day, it's ingrained in my head because of this season right here, this streak of games right here. As I said, the Giants were up 33-27. I do apologize. I thought it was 32-27, but Len Dawson completes a pass to somebody. I forgot who it was. The Giants gang tackled him at the 1-yard line and prevented him from scoring, and the clock ran out because the clock was running. The Chiefs had no more timeouts left. Had it been another 10, 20 seconds or so in the game, that the Chiefs could have ran up to the line of scrimmage and ran a handoff or something like that, or threw another pass or whatever. If they had another play or two, they would have scored a touchdown and they would have won. And once again, the Giants would have lost in the final minute of the game. But I guess the football gods really felt sorry for the Giants, and they gave them this game. But this is where the 4 games in a row actually start. I said it would have been 5, but the Giants held on by 1 yard against the Chiefs game. So the next 4 games, the Giants wound up losing in overtime to the Jets, 26-20. Actually, they would have lost in the final minute of the game. It was Pat Leahy tried to kick a field goal, and it was like 5 seconds to go in the game or something like that. It was a short field goal, but I think Spider Lockhart jumped up and blocked the kick. Forced it to go in overtime. The Giants got the ball in overtime. They marched down the field. Pete Gogolak kicked the field goal. He thought it was good, but the refs said it went just wide, maybe like a foot or so wide of the goalpost. So Pete Gogolak missed a field goal in overtime that would have won the game for the Giants. But then the Jets got the ball. They marched down the field, and Namath hit Boozer or Snell on a touchdown pass. And with like 5-6 minutes to go in overtime, the Jets wound up winning. And, of course, the Giants have the dubious distinction of being the first team to ever lose a regular season overtime game. The Broncos and the Steelers played the first overtime game, but that wound up in a 35-35 tie. So when 35-35 in overtime, nobody scored. So that game was tied. So the Giants-Jet game was the first overtime regular season game where there actually was a decisive winner. It wound up being the Jets, 26-20. Because they scored the touchdown, they didn't have to kick the extra point, so the Jets wound up winning in overtime. So the Giants lost. This is a streak of 4 games in a row where the Giants either lost in overtime or in the final minute of the game. So then the next week, the Giants go on the road on Sunday, November 17. They play in Detroit. They lose 20-19. They were up 19-10. Detroit scored. I guess it was they scored a touchdown in the final quarter and then a field goal. Yeah. Yeah, the Giants were up 19-10. They scored 2 field goals in the fourth quarter to go up 19-10 by 2 scores. But then they gave up a touchdown pass, and then Errol Mann kicked a 37-yard field goal with like 7 seconds to go in the game to beat the Giants. So that was game number 2 in a row. Then the Giants played. This one was just unbelievable. The Giants were up, scored a touchdown with like, I don't know what it was, 71 seconds to go. They scored a touchdown pass, and they were up 21-20 over the Cardinals, who wound up winning the division. So the Cardinals were a very good team that year. The Cardinals were 10-4. So the Giants, with 71 seconds left to go, were up 21-20. Cardinals obviously needed a field goal. So the Giants, for some reason, I guess they felt that they didn't want to have them return the kickoff back. Maybe they were worried that they were going to run it back for a touchdown or something. So they decided to squib kick at some reason. So Pete Gogolak winds up kicking it to I forgot who it was, but it was like almost kind of like a line drive. The guy was standing at the freaking 30-yard line with over a minute to go in the game. The guy gets the ball. He bounced. I think he juggled it. I think it bounced off the ground or something. He picks it up and he runs it back to the Giants' 46-yard line. So instead of kicking the ball as deep as you can and trying to pin him down around the 20, they start their drive with about, I don't know, after the kickoff was over, maybe about a minute to go in the game at the Giants' 46. So a couple plays later, and actually Jim Hart fumbled the ball a play or two later, and I don't know if they blew the whistle really fast or not. I mean, he fumbled, came back from center, fumbled the ball, went down, and it was a scrum for it. And the refs said that Hart recovered his own fumble. Well, if you watch the film, John Mendenhall comes out of the pile with the ball. So I don't know if they blew it really quick, because usually it's kind of like, the players are scrumming around for it, and, then they picking the guys off the pile, and whoever's the one who has the ball, whoever walks out of the pile with the ball, it's their ball. Well, John Mendenhall comes out of the pile with the ball, but they give the ball to, they said Jim Hart recovered his own fumble. So whatever. So a couple plays later, it's basically almost as time is expiring, Jim Bakken kicks a field goal, and the Giants wind up losing 23-21. So they squib kicked it to the 30-yard line. The guy picks it up, runs it back over 20 yards to the Giants' 46-yard line. So the Cardinals have about a minute to go, and they're starting at the Giants' 46-yard line. All they need is a field goal. And, of course, the Giants lost. So then in the final game, it was tied 13-13. And with about, I think it was 7 seconds to go in the game, the Bears kicked the field goal and wound up winning 16-13. So that was the so the Giants lost 3 games in a row in the final minute. Actually, it was like the final seconds. And then, of course, the other one they lost was in overtime. And it would have been the final seconds of the Jet game had not Spider Lockhart blocked Pat Leahy's was it Leahy? Let me see. So I know they just got somebody. Pat Leahy, yeah. Pat Leahy. Tried to kick a field goal like 5 or 6 seconds to go in the game, and Spider Lockhart blocked it. So that would have been 4 games in a row they were lost in the final minute, but they wound up losing that one in overtime. So, I mean, the Giants were just snake bitten. And to this day, I'm scarred 50 years later about this season. It's just unbelievable. Then the final, so now the Giants, after they lost to the Bears, after the Bears beat them 16-13 in the final minute of the game, the Giants are now 2-10. So they have 2 games left. The Eagles come to town, and the Eagles win 20-7. And then the final game of the season, the Giants go on the road against the Cardinals, who, like I said, were a good team. They wound up winning the division. The Cardinals won 26-14, so the Giants finished at 2-12. And unfortunately, their very high draft pick that they had for 1975, they traded away because they got Craig Morton. So it is what it is. But the Giants went up 2-12. Absolutely, unbelievably gut-wrenching, horrible season. Just, as I said, I'm scarred to this day because of that season. Unbelievable. It was like whatever could go wrong for the Giants did go wrong. It was just unbelievable. So let me go over the season real fast here. I'll just kind of in the AFC, all right, the Dolphins wound up 11-3. The Buffalo Bills got the wild card. They were 9-5. Pittsburgh Steelers won the AFC Central with a record of 10-3-1. And the AFC West, the Raiders won. They were 12-2. So in the playoffs, we got, Pittsburgh at home beat the Buffalo Bills 32-14. And then one of the greatest games, the Sea of Hands game, one of the greatest games in the history of football. Exciting. If you haven't ever watched the Sea of Hands game, 1974, between the Oakland Raiders and Miami Dolphins, do yourself a favor, watch it on YouTube. I mean, I don't. They have almost the whole game on there, I believe it is, but it's an exciting game. Basically, because it snaps the reign of the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins won the last 2 Super Bowls. And going into 1974, once again, they were a favorite to possibly three-peat. But the Raiders beat them in the Sea of Hands game. They wound up winning 28-26. What a fantastic! I remember watching that game on TV. Great, exciting game. So that led up to the championship game, which the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Oakland Raiders played each other, and the Pittsburgh Steelers won 24-13. I think they scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to wind up winning that game. So the Steelers won 24-13 in the championship game. So that sent the Steelers to their first ever Super Bowl appearance. So then, this is odd. This is pretty weird. So in the NFC, every team, all 4 teams that made the playoffs were 10-4. Every team. In the NFC East, the Cardinals were in first place. They won the tiebreaker with the Redskins. The Cardinals were 10-4. The Redskins came in second place. They were 10-4 as well. The Cowboys had a winning record, but they did not make the playoffs. This is the first time that they made the playoffs a lot. This is about the only season they didn't make the playoffs. They made the playoffs starting in 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72. They didn't make it in 74, but back in 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, they made every year except for 74. They had a little bit of a down year. The NFC Central, the Vikings won with a record of 10-4. The NFC West, the Rams won with a record of 10-4. So in the playoffs, the NFC playoffs, the Rams beat the Redskins 19-10. The Minnesota Vikings beat the St. Louis Cardinals. The game was in Minnesota, 30-14, setting up a championship game between the Rams and the Vikings. The Vikings would win 14-10. Very close game. The problem with the Rams were very good. The Rams always made the playoffs every year, this, that, and the other thing. Their problem was starting when they started making the playoffs in 73, from 73 to 78, every year they lost to either the Cowboys or the Vikings. They were never, ever able to get over the hump. They got the championship games, they got the playoffs and all, but they always lost to either the Cowboys or the Vikings. Finally, in 1979, the Rams beat the Cowboys in the playoffs, and they got to the championship game, and they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 9-0 in the championship game, and they got to the Super Bowl. But from 73 to 78, the Rams lost every year to either the Cowboys or the Vikings in the playoffs. They were just snake bitten. So in the championship game, the Vikings won 14-10, which set up the Super Bowl between the Vikings and the Steelers. And this was one of the most horrible, boring Super Bowls of all time. The Steelers would wind up winning 16-6. The only scoring in the first half was when Fran Tarkenton got tackled in the end zone. There was a fumble. I think he tried to hand the ball off to somebody, hit the dude in the hip or the side or something. The ball squirted back into the Vikings end zone. Fran Tarkenton covered up the ball. He got touchdown in the end zone, so it was a safety. So it was 2-0 at halftime. The Vikings ran the ball 21 times, had I heard 18 yards rushing. Here they say 17 yards. They averaged 0.8 yards a carry. 0.8. It was just boring, painful to watch. This is another one of the times where the Vikings had a hard time stopping the run in big games. This 1974, after the season, this Super Bowl, the Vikings would get to the Super Bowl after the 76 season against the Raiders. The Raiders would run all over the Vikings. This Super Bowl here, the Steelers would run all over the Vikings. The Steelers ran 57 times for 249 yards. The Vikings just couldn't stop their running game. Couldn't stop it. The Steelers, what were they? Steelers only threw the ball 14 times. They were 9 out of 14. They had 84 net yards passing. They had 333 yards. The Vikings had a combined total of 119 yards. Total net yards, 119 yards in a Super Bowl. I mean, just the only way the Vikings scored was they blocked a kick. Terry Brown recovered a block punt in the end zone. He's not the one that blocked it. I forgot who it was. And it was so bad for the Vikings, they even missed the extra point. Fred Cox's kick hit the left upright. They couldn't even make an extra point. They couldn't score a point on offense. I mean, they had some bad luck. They got down deep. I know Tarkenton scrambled out to his left one time, tried to throw a pass. I think Mean Joe Green jumped up and tipped the ball. Of course, it went up in the air. Of course, the Steelers intercepted it. You know, I mean, there's another pass. The Vikings, I think Tarkenton hits, I forgot who it was. I think caught the ball, but somebody nailed the receiver. The ball popped up in the air. A Steeler, of course, was standing there intercepting the ball, but the pass was, I think, was completed like inside the 5. But so I don't know, it was Lambert or somebody hit the receiver. The ball bounced up in the air. A Steeler intercepted or got the fumble, whatever it was, and he brought it back out. So that was another scoring chance was gone for the Vikings. But it was a very boring game, especially if you're a Vikings fan. I was pulling for the Vikings because I like Fran Tarkenton because he was the quarterback of the Steelers. I'm sorry, of the used to be of the Giants, quarterback of the Giants. So when the Vikings, the Vikings were my second favorite team because I like Fran Tarkenton. So obviously when the Vikings went to the Super Bowl, I was pulling for them. It's just they kept losing all the time. They lost 73 to the Dolphins. They lost 74 to the Steelers. They lost 76 to the Raiders. So, you know, not only watching the Giants was painful, but watching the Vikings get to the Super Bowl and lose was painful too. This Super Bowl, I mean, I thought because the Steelers, this is their first Super Bowl ever. The Vikings have been there. This is the third Vikings Super Bowl. I figure somewhere along the line, the football gods have got to, you know, rain down or you know, have whatever, you know, have to bless the Vikings with something somewhere along the line. But nope, not meant to be. This was a painful Super Bowl to watch. So the Steelers put it was 9-6 in the fourth quarter after the Vikings blocked the punt, recovered in the end zone. So they were only down by 3 points. But then the Steelers got the ball. They marched 11 plays, 66 yards, and Terry Bradshaw hit Larry Brown in the back of the end zone with a 4-yard touchdown reception. Roy Girella's extra point made it 16-6, and pretty much the game is over. There was only 3.5 minutes left to go in the game, and the game was over. So just a painful Super Bowl to watch. But also what was painful was watching the New York Giants that year. I mean, it was just painful, absolutely painful. 1975 would be a little bit better. They would win more games. Thank goodness. But you know, I mean, as I said, the 2 wins in 1975, they win more games, and in 76 they come crashing back down again. It was just unbelievably horrible, painful to watch the New York Giants back in the 70s. Well, that pretty much wraps up the 1975 season for the New York Football Giants. Thank goodness. Back-to-back 2-win seasons. 73 they're 2-11-1. 1974 they're 2-12. Oh, painful. So I'll be back again tomorrow with the 1975 season of the New York Giants, where they do actually win more games than they did in 1974. And the 1975 season just happened to be the 51st season in the history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.